You think quitting your job is the moment your life finally starts, but the truth is that's exactly where most people begin to lose control. You've been there, sitting at your desk, staring at a screen that feels heavier every day, replaying conversations with your boss in your head, imagining the moment you finally stand up, walk out, and say the words that have been building for months, "I'm done." In your mind, that moment feels powerful, clean, final. You picture relief hitting instantly. You picture waking up the next day feeling free, like something has been lifted off your chest. But that's not what happens. The first 48 hours feel like adrenaline. You feel bold, alive, almost proud of yourself. Then something shifts. Your bank account starts whispering. Your inbox stays quiet. Your confidence starts leaking slowly, silently. Weeks pass, then months, and suddenly you're sitting across from a hiring manager, nodding to an offer you would have rejected without hesitation just a few months ago. Not because the job is better, but because your position is weaker. This is where most people misunderstand reality. They think quitting is a strategy. It's not. Quitting is a single action inside a much larger system, a system most people never design. And that gap between leaving and landing something better, that's where careers quietly collapse. There's a story people love to believe. The brave employee who finally stands up, drops everything, and walks into a better life. You see it everywhere. Viral posts, dramatic resignation letters, stories framed as courage. But that story is incomplete, because leaving is not the hard part. Leaving is emotional, and emotions are fast. What's hard is what comes after, because most people don't leave with a plan. They leave with a threshold, a breaking point where the pain of staying finally becomes unbearable. And in that moment, it feels like clarity, like certainty, like the universe is telling you it's time. But it's not clarity, it's exhaustion making the decision for you. Stress does something dangerous. It narrows your vision. The worse your situation gets, the less your brain thinks strategically, and the more it fixates on relief. You stop thinking in steps. You stop thinking in timelines. You stop thinking in leverage. Everything collapses into one simple idea. I just need to get out. And that's where the trap closes. Because your brain turns a complex transition into a binary choice. Stay or leave. Nothing in between. But the truth is, everything that matters lives in between. That invisible space is where your leverage exists. And most people skip it completely. They quit first. Then they try to figure things out. They open their laptop, stare at a blank resume, realize their LinkedIn hasn't been updated in years, and suddenly they're trying to build a future while running out of time. That's not strategy. That's survival. And survival mode makes you accept things you would never accept in a position of strength. You think quitting gives you control. In reality, quitting without preparation removes it. If this hits, comment 1 below. Because here's the deeper truth most people don't want to face. The job market is not waiting for you. It doesn't care that you were brave. It doesn't reward emotional decisions. It operates on timing, positioning, and leverage. Hiring cycles are slow. Recruiters are indifferent. And desperation has a smell you can't hide. The longer you're out, the more your position changes. At first, you're selective. Then you're flexible. Then you're compromising. Not because your standards changed, but because your pressure did. And pressure rewrites your decisions. But the damage goes deeper than money. Work, even bad, work gives structure. It gives you routine. It gives you identity. When that disappears overnight, something unexpected happens. You don't feel free. You feel disoriented. Your days lose shape. Your motivation fragments. Your confidence, which once pushed you to leave, starts to erode quietly in the background. You begin checking your email late at night, refreshing for updates that never come, waiting for responses that were promised but never delivered. And slowly, you shift from someone who chose to leave to someone who has to explain why they're still searching. That's when the real cost shows up. The employment gap, not just as a timeline, but as leverage, because that gap doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to every employer who sees it as an opportunity to offer less, an opportunity to test how much you'll tolerate, an opportunity to push boundaries they wouldn't dare push if you were still employed. This is how the system actually works, not through conspiracy, but through math. Someone with no income and no alternatives will accept conditions that someone stable never would. That's not personal. That's predictable. And this is the part nobody teaches. The workplace doesn't need to trap you. It just needs you to leave badly, because chaotic exits create compliant re-entries. You don't come back stronger. You come back negotiable. And most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're moving forward, but in reality, they're resetting the same cycle. leaving one bad situation, only to enter another, except now with less leverage, less patience, and fewer options. That's not growth, that's repetition. And the worst part, it feels like progress while it's happening. Because movement always feels better than being stuck, even if it's sideways, or backward, or deeper into the same problem. So what does a real exit look like? Not the emotional version, the strategic one. It starts long before you ever say a word, before anyone suspects anything, before you even fully commit to leaving. It starts with clarity, not about how you feel, but about what you've actually done, because memory is unreliable, especially under stress. When you're burned out, your brain distorts reality. It minimizes your wins. It blurs your impact. So you document everything, every result, every project, every measurable contribution, not for validation, but for evidence. Because later, when you need to prove your value, you won't be guessing. You'll be presenting. Then you look at your network differently, not as a list of people you know, but as a system of potential leverage. Who can actually speak for you? Not casually, not vaguely. Specifically, who can say what you did, how you did it, and why it mattered? And more importantly, will they? Because not everyone who likes you will advocate for you. And timing matters. Support fades when it's not activated. Then comes your narrative. Why are you leaving? What are you moving toward? What will you not accept again? These answers can't be emotional. They have to be controlled. Because the moment you're sitting in an interview, you won't have time to figure it out. You'll only have time to deliver it. And if your story sounds uncertain, you will be treated as uncertain. Then you build direction, not vague intention, not seeing what's out there, but a defined target, specific roles, specific companies, specific positioning, because clarity compresses time and confusion wastes it. You also study the details most people ignore: contracts, notice, periods, benefits, hidden clauses, because once you leave, your ability to use that information disappears. And most people realize what they missed only after it's too late. This is what separates emotional exits from strategic ones. One is reactive, the other is deliberate. One feels powerful in the moment, the other creates power over time. And yes, there are exceptions. Situations where you need to leave immediately, toxic environments, abuse, health risks, moments where staying is more dangerous than leaving. In those cases you go, no hesitation. But even then, you don't abandon logic. You shift into protection mode. You document what you can. You secure what matters. You stabilize your position as quickly as possible, because even emergency exits require structure. Without it, urgency turns into long-term damage. This is the part most people avoid, because it's not exciting. It's not dramatic. It doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like preparation. Quiet, slow, unseen. But this is where real control is built, because leaving a job is not about courage. Anyone can leave. All it takes is a bad enough day. What's rare is the discipline to prepare before you're forced to think clearly while you're still stable, to build leverage before you need it. Because the transition between jobs is not a gap, it's a turning point. It determines your next level, your next income, your next environment. And most people treat it like an afterthought, driven by frustration, powered by emotion, and paid for in silence later. So before you imagine that final conversation one more time, before you rehearse your exit again, ask yourself something harder. Not am I ready to leave, but am I ready to land? Because leaving is loud, but landing, that's what shapes your life for years. If this changed how you see your situation, consider subscribing.